225FC. Meeting on the air first and third Sunday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That's correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? With me just a minute. I'm having a little computer problem. Tom, computer is slow. I may need to get a new computer. This thing is just not loading. So if you want to go ahead and start, I'll pick it up in just a minute, okay?
Brenda, I can do that. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom, and I'll be your alternate net control this evening for the DERC Skynet. So we'll go ahead and get started. When Brenda's ready, we'll bring her back in. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help astronomers become more familiar with the nighttime, amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time?
Okay, I'm back up if you want me to pick up.
Hey, this is a directed net. Please continue.
All right, this is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a P alternative 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5SC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, online to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. 9. Recent astronomical discoveries. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A. And number 12, 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So we're going to start with low power and short time check-ins. We want your call sign and your name and your QTH. Please come now, short time.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra. It's Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power.
November 8, Whiskey Romeo, at 8 WWR, Romy, Grapevine, short time for the count. Thanks for that.
We have W5GUS, Gus, and November 8, WWR, Romy. All right, regular check-ins now, general check-ins.
Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob, Farmers Branch.
Kilo India 5 Sierra X-Ray Echo, Brandon, Wiley, Texas.
November 5 Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Kilo India 5, uniform Juliet, Dustin, and Dallas.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony, and Dallas.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia, Fort Worth. India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel, Melissa, Surf City, North Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu with DJ, US.
Kilo
That'd be Tom.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James, and Carrollton.
Kilo 5, Bravo Tango Whiskey. This is Bren at Lake Levant.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Is
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, and Mesquite. But I'm actually an irregular check-in rather than a regular check-in.
November 9, Tango Yankee, Tom and Dallas.
Whiskey 5, Bacon Lettuce Tomato, Bill, Garland.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, Emma.
All right, that's a fair amount. So we'll go ahead and recognize KG5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob, KI5, SXE, Brendan, November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill, Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Kilo India 5, Uniform India, Justin, November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony, November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia, Kilo India 5, Golf Romeo Hotel, Melissa, Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jay, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James, I hope that's right. Kilo 5, Bravo Tango Whiskey, and I think that was Brent. Is that correct, Brent?
Yeah, it's Bren, Bravo Romeo, Echo November.
Bravo Bren, is that correct?
that's right. Bravo Romeo Echo November.
All right, thank you. Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo Sean, Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha Taz, November 9, Tango Yankee Tom, Whiskey 5, Bravo Lima Tango Bill, November Oscar Foxtrot Clay. Do we have any Echo Link check-ins? I'll give you a little extra time.
Whiskey Delta 5, Baker Papa X-Ray, Bobby in Wells Point, Texas.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray in Quinlan.
I need some fills. I think it was WD5 Delta Bravo X-Ray. Bobby, is that?
That was Whiskey Delta Baker Papa X-Ray, Bobby, Wells Point.
Whiskey Delta 5 Delta Papa X-Ray, is that correct?
Negative. That's Delta 5, Bravo Papa X-Ray.
No, I really missed that. Your signal's kind of weak. Would you come again with it?
WD Bobby Papa X-Ray.
Well, I am sorry. I still didn't. Okay, back channel. I got Whiskey Delta 5 Bravo Papa X-Ray. Okay, let me fix that. And the next one I missed entirely. Would you please come back with your whole call and name? Okay, maybe you can come back to it later. Then we have K5KTX Kelly. Any other general check-ins? Please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
think I copied Kilo Golf 5, Zulu, Mike, Golf, Joe. Let me know if that's not correct. Anybody else?
Kilo Fox 5, Tango Hotel Bravo, Brent and Henrietta.
Okay, I got your call sign, Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Hotel Bravo, and I think you said Brent. Is that correct?
That's a net.
All right, well, let's get started. General announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Brenda. I'm sure this will be covered later, but I'd like to continue my tradition of, from other nets today, of saying happy birthday to Voyager 2. It was the first of the Voyager probes launched 45 years ago today. It's just been an amazing program and an amazing couple of spacecraft. You'll have a chance to learn more about them pretty much everywhere you look on the internet today. Of course, this is not our last net of the evening. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion tonight featuring Teenage Wasteland or Teenage Werewolf or Teenage Spaceman or wait, Teenage Caveman. Yeah, we'll be talking about that. I watched the MST3K version. If you still haven't watched it yet and want to, I do recommend that version. Of course, don't forget, we do have a lecture lab coming up a week from today, open to Dallas Amateur Radio Club members and non-members. If you like building antennas, you can come to the lecture lab. We'll be building a 137 megahertz aviation and satellite receiving antenna. Cost will be $30. There are some details up on w5fc.org right now. There'll be even more tomorrow. NT5TM, back to net.
Tony. The AMSAT, Amateur Radio Satellite Group, has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central. You will need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz. 110.9 megahertz Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz positive offset. And then the DARC hosted nets on Mondays. The first week is Ham Fixin's net. Second week, MCOM 101. Third week, another Ham Fixin's net. Fourth week, Geek Net. Fifth week, Surprise Net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East, 8 p.m. Fridays, CERT City Simulation, 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. Saturdays, TechNet, 7 to 8 p.m., and of course, Skynet. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. That's MODA. Every day, the National Traffic System Training Net, every night, 6:30 p.m. Central. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. All right. The Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'd like to ask Taz, KF5JHA, to fill us in on what they're doing.
Thank you, Brenda. Just want to let you know, I don't think JJ N5IMS in Carrollton has been checked in. He's just on Echolink. He usually doesn't transmit, so please check him in. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held about 6 days from now on Friday, August the 26th. Meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. That would be on Campbell Road, and it will be held also on Zoom. The featured speaker will be Kelly Miller, mayor of Kelly, Texas, our own Skynet's K5KTX, and her topic will be on the TASS library. Kelly, why don't you give us a little bit more details about that?
Sure, Chaz. This is K5KTX. Good evening, everyone. So I have been the librarian for the Astronomy Club for several years, many years now. For the past couple of years, I've been working on a project where I have taken all 900 plus of our books and scanned them into an online app called TinyCat. And it's a library app. And it makes it much easier to see what books we have and to be able to check them out right online. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about, is giving a presentation on how that app works and showing off some of our library books. We have library books that go all the way back to like 1867 and some new ones just from the last couple of years. So really neat library, and hoping to get some more use from folks. And so that's what the talk will be about. This is K5KTX.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And the Saturday night public observing sessions for TASS has begun again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the TASS public observing sessions. Is there anyone at the TASS public observing session tonight? I don't know if it happened because of the clouds, but if there is, come now. What's your call sign? I guess that's a no. Now, you can check out the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And thank you so much. This is KF5JJ Vector, Net Control, Brenda. It's all back to you. Don't forget about JJ.
Thank you. Okay, checking in, N5IMS JJ. Welcome to the net. Next up, the National Space Society events and activities. Ask Bill, N5BB, to give us some information on that.
Thank you, Brenda. I have Texas chapter. We meet on the second Sunday of every month in the afternoon in Irving at Spring Creek Barbecue. So our August meeting was this past Sunday, August the 14th. If you have any interest in National Space Society or our local chapter, please send me an email at n5bb@arrl.net or solar@byrom.net. That's solar, SOLAR, at byrom.net. As far as events, we had an event today at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. It was Space Day, and some other groups were there, but we were there representing not just fictional space things, but real things happening in space. and we had a very good showing. We had 1, 2, 3, about 6 members. I'm trying to count now while I'm talking. It's hard. I think we had about 6 of our chapter members there, including 2 hams, myself and Jay, KG5BZW, who is also a member of our chapter. It was great fun, and it's a interesting museum if you've never been to the Fort Museum of Science and History over in the Museum District in Dallas, off of Montgomery. This is in 5BB, right? We don't have any other short, let me double check here, but don't believe, we have no other short-term activities coming up in the next month or so until our September meeting on September the 11th. So no new short-term activities. The really big event is going to be the International Space Development Conference, which is going to be held in late May of 2023 in Frisco, right north of Dallas. The website is up. You can probably do a web search for ISDC 2023, ISDC 2023. And there will be more things coming. Right now, that website doesn't have a lot of super details because we don't know who the keynote speakers will be. Being worked out right now. Anyway, I've been on several conference calls involving coordination for this, including one this week. So it's going to be very exciting. Again, if you have any questions about the National Space Society or want to join, please reach out to me. This is in 5BB. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, do we have any more check-ins? All right, let's move on to the discussion topic of the evening. Telescope. If weren't enough, we're going to get a new, this is a very exciting project, which is working on now. It'll be a while before it is finished, but we're eagerly awaiting this. The Giant Magellan Telescope, or the GMT, is a ground-based, extremely large telescope under construction as part of the U.S. Extremely Large Telescope Program, that's US-ELTP, as of 2022. It will consist of 7 8.4-meter diameter primary segments that will observe optical and near-infrared light, and with resolving power of a 24.5-meter primary mirror, collecting area equivalent to a 22-meter one, which is about 368 square meters. The telescope is expected to have a resolving power 10 times that of the Hubble Space Telescope and 4 times that of the James Webb Space Telescope. As of May 2021, 6 mirrors have been cast and the construction of the Summit facility has begun. A total of 7 primary mirrors are planned, but it will begin operation with 4. The U.S. $1 billion project is U.S.-led in partnership with Australia, Brazil, and South Korea, with Chile as the host country. The location of the telescope is Las Campanas Observatory, which is also the site of the Magellan telescopes, some 115 kilometers north-northeast of La Serena, Chile, and 180 kilometers south of Copiapó, Chile. 2,516 meters. The site has been chosen as the new instrument's location because of its outstanding astronomical seeing and clear weather throughout most of the year. Moreover, due to the sparsity of population centers and other favorable geographical conditions, the night sky in most of the surrounding Atacama Desert region is not only free from atmospheric pollution, but in addition, it is probably one of the places least affected by light pollution, making the area one of the best spots on Earth for long-term astronomical observation. Major site preparation began with the first blast to level the mountain peak on 23rd March of 2012. In November 2015, construction was started at the site with a groundbreaking ceremony. The excavation of the foundations was completed in early 2019. As of August 2022, the site is ready for the pouring of the foundation's concrete. The telescope will use 7 of the world's largest mirrors as primary mirror segments, each 8.417 meters in diameter. These segments will then be arranged with one mirror in the center and the other 6 arranged symmetrically around it. The challenge is that the outer 6 mirror segments will be off-axis, and although identical to each other, will not be individually radially symmetrical, necessitating a modification of the usual polishing and testing procedures. The mirrors are being constructed by the University of Arizona's Stewart Observatory Richard F. Karras Mirror Lab. The casting of the first mirror in a rotating furnace was completed on November 3rd, 2005, but the grinding and polishing were still going on 6.5 years. Was cast on 13 and the 4th in September 2015, the 5th in 2017, and the 6th in 2021. The casting of each mirror uses 20 tons of E6 borosilicate glass from the O'Hara Corporation of Japan and takes 12 to 13 weeks. After being cast, they need to cool for about 6 months. Polishing of the first mirror was completed in November 2012. As this was an off-axis segment, a wide array of new optical tests and laboratory infrastructure had to be developed to polish the mirror. The intention is to build 7 identical off-axis mirrors so that a spare is available to substitute for a segment being recoated. A 1 to 2 week per segment process required every 1 to 2 years. While the complete telescope will use 7 mirrors, it is planned to begin operation with 4 mirrors. The primary mirror array as a whole will have a focal ratio, that's the focal length divided by diameter of f0.71. For an individual segment being 1/3 that diameter, the results in a focal ratio of f2.14. The overall focal ratio of the complete telescope will be f8, and the optical prescription is an aplanatic Gregorian telescope. Like all modern large telescopes, it will make use of adaptive optics. Scientists expect very high-quality images due to very large aperture and advanced adaptive optics. Image resolution should exceed that of the Hubble Space Telescope. All right, any more check-ins? Okay, Chaz, KO5JHA, why don't you tell us what's up?
Thank you, Brenda. I just want to let all of you know Bob is outside crying. He wants in, but I'm not going to let him in until this segment is over. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree's in astrophysics, and I work in the astrophysics labs and geology labs at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up? Slide Master, That would be Tom. He's our slide master. Slide number 2, please. Yesterday, on August the 19th, the moon's phase was the third quarter phase. The current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On August the 22nd, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,418 kilometers. The moon will be new on August the 27th. On September the 3rd, the moon's phase is the first quarter. On September the 7th, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 364,492 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 3, please. Yesterday morning, on August the 19th, in the early morning, the moon and were in conjunction. Using a pair of binoculars would have helped in observing this conjunction. It was too cloudy for me this morning. I can't remember what it was like on Friday morning. I was asleep at early morning twilight for a different reason. Okay. Slide master, slide number 4. On August the 25th, the moon and Venus will be in conjunction in the early morning eastern sky. This should be an easy observation with just your 2 eyes. The moon and Venus, 2 brightest things other than the sun. Slide master, slide number 5. On August the 28th, the moon and Mercury will be in conjunction in the western evening sky, and the use of binoculars may be needed to observe this conjunction. Slide master, slide number 6. On the night of August 31st through September the 1st, the Aquarium meteor shower will be at its maximum with a peak of around half a dozen meteors per hour. The best time to observe them will be the hour before morning twilight, because this is the side of the Earth that is running into the cloud of debris left behind by comet C1911N1, also known as Comet Keys. Master, slide number 7. September the 5th, you can observe the conjunction of Regulus and Venus in the early morning east-northeastern sky. Slide master, slide number 8, please. On the night of September the 7th, shift your attention to the evening southeastern, the southeastern sky for the conjunction of the moon and Saturn. I almost paused because I said, wait, if it's the evening sky, wouldn't it be in the west? No, it's going to be in the southeastern sky. Slide master, slide number. On the night of September the 8th and 9th, the Epsilon Perseid meteor shower will be at its maximum with a peak of around a half a dozen meteors per hour. The best time to observe them will be the hour before morning twilight, once again, because this is the side of the Earth that's running into a cloud of debris left behind by some unknown comet or asteroid. I suggest the best location to observe meteors is from one of the 89 Texas state parks or wildlife areas. And slide master, slide number 10. On Sunday, September the 11th, look toward the eastern evening sky to see the conjunction of the moon and the planet Jupiter. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 11, please. Next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting, once again, will be held on Friday, August the 26th, 7:30 p.m., University of Dallas, that's on Campbell Road, held on Zoom. The featured speaker, of course, will be Callie, K5KTX. She'll be talking about the task library. And once again, Saturday night public observing sessions have begun, and you can find out about that at going to the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website at texasastro.org. You'll find out about meetings and as well as the observing sessions. Slide master, slide number 12. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information I've said? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Hey, Tony, I think you're the only one. Just to let all of you know, I'm not letting Bob, the cat, inside right now. Go ahead, Tony.
Don't be mean to Bob on my account. I heard you mention earlier the University of Dallas, and way back when I used to work at the switchboard at UT Dallas, our number one problem was people thinking that we were the Catholic school in Irving. So just to point out, you probably meant the University of Texas at Dallas, which is in Richardson. NT5TM.
No, thank you so much. I have it written up wrong in my script, so you were correct. So the University of Texas at Dallas, that's on Campbell Road. The University of Dallas is out there in Irving, and that's not where we meet. So, yeah, University of Texas at Dallas is where the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas is meeting. Thank you, Tony. Okay, Sidemaster, slide number 13. So as the moon wanes at the end of August, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control. Once again, thank you, Tony. Back to Brenda.
Thank you, Taz. Next up is space exploration and space history and birthdays. And because of that control tonight, Tom, KE5ICX, volunteered to handle some of the load of this. And so we're going to do space exploration news and birthdays, and I'll pick up histories. So KE5ICX, please go ahead.
Good, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX, and I have space exploration news for you. NASA's Artemis 3 moon landing astronauts will explore one of 13 lunar locales. The agency announced 13 potential landing regions for the Artemis 3 mission during a news conference held on Friday, August 19th. All the candidates are clustered near the south pole of the moon, an area of key scientific and exploration interest alike. They're of value to the scientific community and to the technology community. Mark Karasich, Deputy Associate Administrator for the Artemis Campaign Development Division at NASA, said during the news conference, people want and need to do things there. The selected regions are Astini Rim A, peak near Shackleton, Connecting Ridge Extension, two regions of the rim of the Garlock Crater, Kosher Massif, Howarth, Malapert Massif, Minutes Beta Plateau, and two regions of the rim of Noble Crater and Amundsen Rim. I hope I didn't murder that too badly. The agency has identified and will evaluate more than 10 specific landing sites within each region, all of which are within 6 degrees of latitude of the south pole of the moon. NASA sets launch coverage for the Artemis Mega Moon rocket. NASA will provide coverage for pre-launch, launch, and post-launch activities for the Artemis 1, the first integrated test of NASA's Orion spacecraft Space Launch System, or SLS rocket, ground systems at the agency's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This uncrewed flight test around the moon will pave the way for crewed flight test and future human lunar exploration as part of Artemis. The SLS rocket is targeted to launch during a 2-hour window that opens at 8:33 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Monday, August 29th, from Launch Complex 39B at Kennedy. The rocket and spacecraft arrived at its launch pad Wednesday after a nearly 10-hour, 4-mile trek from the vehicle assembly building. A live stream of the rocket and the spacecraft at the launch pad currently is available at NASA's Kennedy YouTube channel. Live coverage of events will air on NASA television, the NASA app, and the agency's website with pre-launch events starting Monday, August 22nd. The launch countdown will begin Saturday, August 27th at 10:30 a.m. You can get complete Artemis coverage at nasa.gov at NASA TV. Saturn's moon could be an ocean world. Saturn's moon Minimus has been known for a striking resemblance distraction there, to a place that could potentially support life. Until now, new research published by the planetary science journal Icarus described how scientists unexpectedly found signs of an ocean beneath the moon's icy shell. Though the study didn't find definitive proof, there's now compelling evidence water is an important ingredient for habitability, creating an environment of ice after all. Next up are space-related birthdays. We have a number of them. We have Tracy Caldwell Dyson, was born in 1969 on August 14th. She flew on STS-118, was a member of Expedition 23 and 24, and Expedition 70 and 71. She has 3 spacewalks to her name, logging 22 hours of EVA. August 15th, we've got Sonny Carter, who was born in 1947. He was on STS-33. Now, this is interesting. I did not know this, and I added it in. He died unexpectedly in Atlantic Southeast Airlines crash in 1991. And you may recall John Tower, the former senator from Texas, was also on that flight. Next is Scott Altman. He was born August 15, 1959. There he is. He was on STS-90, 106, 109, and 125. STS-125 was the last surfacing mission for the Hubble Space Telescope. August 16th, 1933, Stuart Russo, who was the command module pilot for Kitty Hawk on Apollo 14. He conducted experiments from orbit, and he was one of only 24 men to travel to the moon, which he had orbited 34 times. 1962 is Mike Massimino. He's really popular. You recognize this guy if you do any sort of NASA stuff. He was on STS-109 and 125. The STS-109 mission was the 4th Hubble Space Telescope servicing mission. I forgot to put this in, but he's also appeared on Bang Theory, twice in fact. I forgot to write that down, but at any rate, you would recognize him if you saw him. Next up, August 19th, Charles Bolton was born in 1946. He is the former administrator of NASA and a retired United States Marine Corps Major General and a former astronaut who flew on 4 space shuttle missions, which were STS-61C, 31, 45, and 60. Our last celebrity astronaut, these are all pretty famous astronauts. You would probably recognize them or know of them. Story Musgrave was born on August 19, 1935. He was on STS-6, 51F, 33, 44, 61, and 80. In 1996, he became only the 2nd astronaut to fly on 6 space flights, and he was the most formally educated astronaut with 6 academic degrees. Musgrave is the only astronaut to have flown aboard all 5 space shuttles. And that's it for my segment, Ms. Brenda. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. NASA on August 20th, 1977, to study the outer planets and interstellar space beyond the Sun's heliosphere. A part of the Voyager program, it was launched 16 days before its twin, Voyager 1, on a trajectory that took longer to reach the gas giants, Jupiter and Saturn, but enabled further encounters with ice giants Uranus and Neptune. Voyager 2 remains the only spacecraft to have visited either of the ice giant planets. Voyager 2 was the fourth of 5 spacecraft to achieve solar escape velocity, which allowed it to leave the solar system. Voyager 2 successfully fulfilled its primary mission of visiting the Jovian system in 1979, the Saturnian system in 1981, the Uranian system in 1986, and the Neptunian system in 1989. The spacecraft is now in its extended mission of studying interstellar space. It has been operating for 44 years, 11 months, and 30 days as of August 20th, 2022. As of July 31st, 2022, it has reached a distance of 130.09 AU from Earth. That's 12.093 billion miles, or 19.461 billion kilometers. The probe entered interstellar space on November 5th, 2018, at a distance of 122 AU from the Sun, and moving at a velocity of 15.341 kilometers per second relative to the star. Voyager 2 has left the Sun's heliosphere and is traveling through the interstellar medium, a region of outer space beyond the influence of the solar system, joining Voyager 1, which had reached the interstellar medium in 2012. Voyager 2 has begun to provide the first direct measurements of the density and temperature of the interstellar plasma. Voyager 2 remains in contact with the Earth through the NASA Deep Space Network. In 2020, maintenance to the Deep Space Network cut outboard contact with the probe for 8 months. Contact was reestablished on November 2nd, 2020, when a series of instructions was transmitted, subsequently executed, and relayed back with a successful communication message. On February 12, 2021, full communications with the probe were restored after a major antenna upgrade that took a year to complete. The DSS-43 communications antenna, which is solely responsible for communications with the probe, is located near Canberra, Australia. August 18th, 1868, the discovery of helium. The first evidence of helium was obtained on August 18th, 1868 by French astronomer Jules Janssen. While in Guntur, India, Janssen observed a solar eclipse through a prism, whereupon he noticed a bright yellow spectral line emanating from the chromosphere of the Sun. At the time, he believed it to be sodium, since it was proximate to the D1 and D2 Fraunhofer lines. On October 20th of the same year, English astronomer Norman Lockyer observed a yellow line in the solar spectrum, which he named the D3 Fraunhofer line, which he concluded was caused by Lockyer and Helios, after the Greek word for the sun. Do we have any check-ins at this point?
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John in Coppell, Texas.
Hey, Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey. Welcome to the net, John. Okay, next, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. I'm going to ask Chaz, KF5JHA, to carry on. Thanks.
Yeah, Brenda, it is kind of hard to describe what I do, isn't it? Yeah, I am not Miss Carolyn. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued the tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. So Miss Carolyn's constellations of the week this week is Scutum, the Shield, and Corona Austrina, or Corona Austrina, the Southern Crown. And the Shield of the Milky Way running through them. They have a wide variety of different objects to observe. Corona Australis has several different ways of pronouncing it. Yeah. The Southern Crown was known by the Greeks as the wreath, not the crown. Before Ptolemy introduced its stars as a separate constellation, Corona Australis is also known as a circlet of stars near the forefeet of the Centaur, which is Sagittarius. Corona Australis is also the constellation is one of the smallest constellations of the sky. It's only 80th in size out of the 88 constellations, and it occupies only an area of 128 square degrees. Scutum, the Shield, is one of the more modern-day constellations. It was created in 1684 by astronomer Johannes I can't ever pronounce his name right, who named Scope's Shield. It was to honor his patron, King John III. Oh, it's not Scope, it's Skobiski of Poland. Scutum is the only modern constellation introduced for political reasons. It is the fifth smallest constellation in the sky, or the 84th constellation in size, occupying only an area of 109 square degrees. So we've got a couple of small constellations we're talking about this week. Slide master, slide number 15, please. You know, I gotta say, I'm a big fan of shields. Places we're talking about. Fan of shields because they're really something you can get behind. Okay, I heard you laughing out there. What do you call the Hulk? Yes, the Hulk when he picks up the Captain America's shield. Call him the Star-Spangled Banner. You see, the Hulk's real name is David Banner. Okay, well, if I have to explain it, it doesn't work too well. All right, speaking of superheroes, where does Wonder Woman get her shield from? Come on, someone on Echolink probably has it. JJ, I know you have the answer to this one. Where does Wonder Woman get her shield from? Yeah, JJ got it. Amazon. If you're not on Echolink, you need to get on Echolink during Skynet. Why did the king go to the dentist? To get his teeth crowned. Oh, now we're switching to a different constellation, yes. And the last one for this portion, did you hear about the newborn baby? It was its first crowning achievement. Master, slide number 16. I need to get out of this, don't I? Talk about one star in the Southern Crown. Diana, I believe is what it looks like. It's also called Alpha Southern Crown, which is a Class A25 star with an apparent magnitude of 4.10. about 130 light years away from us. It is the only named star in the constellation. It got its name from Alphaca, yes, Meridana, or Meridiana, which means the Alphaca of the south. After Alphaca, which is the brightest star in the northern constellation of Corona Borealis, which is the northern crown. Slide master, slide number 17. Here's a nebula, Corona Australis Nebula, and it's a bright reflection nebula, about 420 light years distance, formed by several bright stars cut up in a dark cloud of dust. The cloud is a star-forming region with clusters of young stars embedded in it. Sounds interesting. The nebula consists of three nebulous regions, NGC 6726, 6727, and NGC 6729. The molecular cloud complex in the region is one of the nearest areas with recent or ongoing intermediate and low mass star formations. Slide master, slide number 18, please. Coronet cluster is located 420 light years away from Earth and stretches about 10 light years across. The Coronet cluster is a relatively loose cluster of only a few dozen stars, many of which are only a few million years old, pretty young as in astronomical terms. It is one of the nearest known regions with ongoing star formation as well. Perhaps not quite as well known as the star formation cousin, the Orion Nebula. The Corona Australis region and most active. And slide number 19, please. I'm going to switch to the constellation of Scutum. Alpha Scuti is the brightest star in the constellation. It is an orange giant with a stellar classification of K23. Has a magnitude of 3.85 and is approximately 174 light years distance from the Earth. The star used to belong to Aquila constellation and was previously designated as Aquilae number 1. It is also known as a variable star, and its brightness varies from about 10% plus or minus. It is 132 times more luminous than the Sun, has a mass of 1.7 times the mass of our Sun. It is believed to be at least 2 billion years old. Our Sun, about 5 billion. Slide master, slide number 20. M11. Some people think it's in Aquila, but it's not. It's in Scutum. Was discovered in 1681 by Kirch of the Berlin Observatory. He could not resolve it into individual stars. Its true stellar nature was not discovered until 1732 by William Durham of England. In 1844, renowned British astronomer Admiral William Smythe, I think it's not Smythe, not Smith, discovered M11 as a, well, he described it, not discovered, he described it as a flight of wild ducks in a shape. And that name stuck. M11 is easily found in binoculars or a finder scope. In smaller telescopes, the forming the flock of wild ducks. The 8th magnitude star at the apex of the V is not a cluster member, but a foreground star. Master, slide number 21, please. M26 is a small, loose, open cluster. It is quite a contrast from M11, as M26 is much more sparsely populated and is noticeably smaller than M11. I've actually seen it right here at my apartment in Mesquite with my 20 by 80 binoculars, but it's just barely visible. M11 is much more prominent. Robert Burnham noted that Admiral Smythe described M26 as a coarse but bright cluster of stars in a fine condensed part of the Milky Way. which just about sums it up. As a whole, the constellation of Scutum is taken up by the Scutum star cloud, which is the brightest part of the Milky Way outside of Sagittarius. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Masters, slide number 22. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects on the constellations of Scutum the Shield and Corona Austrina. The Southern Crown, yes, I've used several different genitives of that name. I have just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has about 73 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide number 23, and that is Miss Scutum the Shield. It's on the star wall for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also use at times the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next time, I'll take a look at Aquila the Eagle, which is right adjacent to the constellation Scutum. So this is KF5JJ sending it back to our net control. Brenda, it's all yours again. 73, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, Chaz. All right, let's call for more check-ins. Okay, call on Tom, K5ICX, to tell us about space launches for this week. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. A number of different things, mostly Falcon 9 stuff, as you might expect. But there's a couple of gems in here. August 27th, 28th, overnight, there'll be a launch from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center for the Starlink 4-23 launch. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. August 29th, what we've been waiting for, the Space Launch System Artemis 1 from Launch Complex 39B at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The heavy lift rocket will launch on its first test flight with an uncrewed Orion spacecraft. The mission known as Artemis got into orbit around the moon before the capsule returns to Earth for splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. 10 small CubeSat rideshare payloads will also launch on the Artemis 1 mission. Late August, we don't have a date yet, Starlink 3-4 will launch from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. It will be another batch of 46 Starlink Internet satellites. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Pacific Ocean. In early September, we've got Starlink 4-20 and Sherpa LTC-2 launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The rocket will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. This mission is also expected to launch the space flight propulsive Sherpa LTC-2 space tug, which will climb into a higher orbit with Boeing's Varuna technology demonstration mission, a pathfinder for a planned constellation of broadband satellites. The Varuna demo mission is a hosted payload on the Sherpa LTC-2 orbital transfer vehicle. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. September 6th, Ariane 5 will launch ELA-3 from Conroe, French Guiana. The ECA rocket designated VA-25A to launch the Eutelsat Connect VHTS communications satellite and will provide fixed broadband and in-flight connectivity services over Europe. In early mid-September, Falcon 9 will launch Starlink 4-2 and Blue Walker 3. Yes, again, another batch of Starlink Internet satellites with Blue Walker. Oh, this is from 39A at Kennedy. the test satellite for AST Space Mobile Plan Space Rideshare Payload. Let's see here. Let me do two more and then we'll move on. On September 11th, there will be a multi-payload. This is to be determined. It's a launch from SLC-2W from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. A Firefly Alpha rocket will launch on its second test flight with a rideshare payload consisting of multiple unspecified small satellites. Finally, I'll give this one in September. The Delta IV Heavy will launch an NROL 91. This is from SLC from Vandenberg Space Force Base. There's no time yet. The United States Alliance Delta IV Heavy rocket will launch a classified payload for the National Reconnaissance Office, the U.S. Government Spy Satellite Agency. And Brenda, that's it from me. This is KE5I6.
Thank you very much, Tom. Next is recent astronomical discoveries, and I'm going to read an article entitled, Looking Inside a Neutron Star, New Model Will Improve Insights Gleaned from Gravitational Waves. The unique oscillations in binary neutron stars right before they merge could have big implications for the insights scientists can glean from gravitational wave detection. Researchers at the University of Birmingham have demonstrated the way in which these vibrations caused by the interactions between the two stars' tidal fields as they get closer together affect gravitational wave observations. The study is published in Physical Review Letters. Taking these movements into account can make a huge difference in our understanding of the data LIGO and Virgo instruments set up to detect gravitational waves, ripples in time and space, produced by the merging of black holes and neutron stars. The researchers aim to have a new model ready for advanced LIGO's next observing run and even more advanced models for the next generation of advanced LIGO instruments called A+, which are due to begin their first observing run in 2025. Since the first gravitational waves were detected by the LIGO Scientific Collaboration and Virgo Collaboration in 2016, scientists have been focused on advancing their understanding of the massive collisions that produce these signals, including the physics of a neutron star at supranuclear densities. Dr. Geraint Pratton of the Institute for Gravitational Wave Astronomy at University of Birmingham is lead author on the paper. He said scientists are now able to get lots of crucial information about neutron stars from the latest gravitational wave detections. Details such as the relationship between the star's mass and its radius, for example, provide crucial insight into fundamental physics behind neutron stars. If we neglect these additional effects, our understanding of the structure of the neutron star as a whole can become deeply biased. Dr. Patricia Schmidt, co-author of the paper and associate professor of the Institute for Gravitational Wave Astronomy, added, these refinements are really important. Within single neutron stars, we can start to understand what's happening deep inside the star's core, where matter exists at temperatures and densities we cannot produce in ground-based experiments. At this point, we might start to see atoms interacting with each other in ways we've not yet seen, potentially requiring new laws of physics. The refinements devised by the team represent the latest contribution from the University of Birmingham to the Advanced LIGO program. Researchers in the university's Institute for Gravitational Wave Astronomy have been deeply involved in design and development of the detectors since the program's earliest stages. Looking ahead, PhD student Natalie Williams is already progressing work on calculations to further refine and calibrate the new models. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. I call on Tom, KE5ICX, to tell us what he has.
Thank you, Brenda. Hold on, I gotta make it change here. Hand. All right, why don't I do this? There are, let me go with Tiangong. Something malfunctioned on my base station, complex URL. At any rate, there's two passes for the International Space Station. Neither of them is a full pass, so be aware of that. Tiangong, the Chinese space station that's currently in orbit, has two modules installed, 3 tachyonauts on board currently. Has a couple of passes, August 27th and 28th. August 27th, minus 1.6 magnitude at 21:35 in the morning. I'm sorry, in the evening. Reaches its highest point at 53 degrees at 21:38, then goes into shadow at that same 53 degrees. August 28th has a pretty good pass, minus 2.1 magnitude, 20:35 in the morning, in the evening. Boy, I can't seem to get that out of my mind. At 20:38, it'll reach its highest point at 71 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-southeast at 20:40. Next up is the X-37B. That is the winged unmanned shuttle that is currently in orbit and operated by the U.S. Space Force. August 21st has a pretty good pass, 0.4 magnitude. This one is at 20:43 in the evening out of the west-southwest, reaches its highest point at 79 degrees at 20:45, and it'll fall to the northeast at 20:48. Old reliable, the Envisat environmental satellite that is inert is no longer in operation, but is very large, makes for a good footprint and easy to see from our skies. August 21st, and it is in a polar orbit, so there are many favorable passes, one of which is August 21st, 3.0 magnitude, 5:48 in the morning. Out of the northwest-east, it flies almost directly overhead at 85 degrees at 5:53. And it'll fall to the south-southwest at 5:58. August 23rd has a very good pass. This is 3.2 magnitude at 6:13. It'll be out of the north. It'll reach its highest point at 52 degrees out of the west-northwest, and it'll fall to the south-southwest at 6:23. Next, August 26th has 2 passes, the best of which is at 6:02 in the morning out of the north. It'll reach its highest point at 6:07 at 69 degrees, and it'll fall to the south-southwest at 6:12 and about 10 degrees. And then on August 29th, 3.0 magnitude, 5:50 a.m., and north-northeast, it reaches its highest point directly overhead at 5:55. It will fall to the southeast at 6 o'clock even to the south-southwest. All this information is available at the heavensabove.com website. Just plug in your longitude and latitude, or sign in as a user, and you'll always have that information available to you. And the Heavens Above website will know about you. That's it, Miss Brenda. Back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. All right, Astronomical Q&A. Anybody have any questions tonight? Any checked-in stations with other remarks or questions? Do we have any final check-ins?
So India 5, Papa Golf Mike.
Sorry, I missed last year call. Kilo India 5, what was the rest of it?
No problem. Hello, India 5, Papa Golf Mike, KI5 PGM.
KI5 PGM, and your name, please?
Sorry, this is Travis in Garland, KI5 PGM.
Welcome to the net, Travis. Okay, tonight we had 27 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB50ZL, Brenda. I'll be closing the net at 10:25 p.m. local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. But before we go, Tom, K5ICX, when are we going to rejoin here and talk about our excellent tonight?
Thank you, Brenda, and thanks for doing an excellent net. Our excellent film is Teenage Cavemen from 1958, starring the legendary Robert Vaughn. Open Channel D, everyone. We'll be back in 5 minutes, starting right at the bottom of the hour at 10:30. This is KE5ICX.
Great net, everyone. Thanks. You made replacing an attic fan a lot more enjoyable. K5JDW. K5JDW, it sounded like you were on direct. Make sure you're transmitting on the repeater. Inside BB. K5JW here. Yeah, great net, everyone. Sorry, I was on incoming. And great net. Made replacing my attic fan a lot more enjoyable. K5JDW. Hey, John, you're not going through the repeater, so I don't know if anybody can hear you but me here in Irving. You said great net. Again, you're going to need to transmit on 146.28 for anybody to hear you. In 5BB. I've got it now, thanks. I can't see the settings. My radio's in a weird place. Great net, everyone. Like I said, it made replacing my attic fan a lot more enjoyable. K5JDW. Hey, John, we can hear your melodious voice now. Well, I hope the attic fan is working fine. I've got a lot of systems going on in my new house, and the drywall is going to get installed this next week, I believe. It's all been delivered to the house, so we're slowly moving ahead. I don't know if we'll hear you during Afterglow, but if not, talk to you later. K5JDW in 5BB. Thank you, sir. I may not be back up in the attic. I cannot get the screw out of this fan. I had to bring it down to the shop here, my garage, to try to. I'm gonna have to drill it out. I cannot get that screw out of it. Anyway, 33s, dude. Good luck on your house there. K5JDW. normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
All right, it is 10:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. Tonight's movie that was picked by somebody, we don't know who, but somebody picked this movie. It's called Teenage Caveman from 1958. It was given a better title in the United Kingdom called Out of the Darkness. Actually, I would say it went into the darkness based on what I saw last night when I watched this film. It is an independently made 1958 black and white science fiction adventure film drama produced and directed by Roger Corman and starring this guy named Robert Vaughn. It also has Sarah Marshall in it. Teenage Caveman was released by American International Pictures in July of 1958 as a double feature with How to Make a Monster, which is very popular. That other film is very popular on the Svengoolie. In itself is kind of an interesting film. Better than this one, by the way. The film was originally filmed under the title Prehistoric World and has some 8x10 publicity stills retained the original title. AIP later changed it. Years later, I never directed a film called Teenage Caveman. Lead actor Vaughn stated in an interview that he considered Teenage Caveman to be the worst film ever made. It was later featured on a mocking television series, Mystery Science Theater 3000, which is the version I watched. I'm going to go ahead and give you the plot to the movie, and then after that I will take check-ins, and then we will go through our basic 3 rounds, which are, what did you think? After your check-in, you let us know if you saw it. We ask, did you like the plot? What did you think about the plot? Then what did you think about the acting and the characters? And then finally, anything you want, which includes, of course, music, special effects, lighting, whatever you want. Here we go. A tribe of primitive humans lives on a barren, rocky wasteland and struggle for survival despite a lush, plant-filled land on the other side of a nearby river. They refuse to cross the river because of the law that evolved from an ancient tale warning of a god lurking there who brings death with a single touch. A young man of the tribe challenges the law and is eventually followed by other male members of his tribe who fearfully cross the river in order to bring him back. They soon encounter the terrible god, a large, horribly burned but strangely human-like creature. Despite the young man's peace overture to the god, another tribal member, out of fear, lays a trap and stones the poor creature to death with a large rock. The young man then shoots and kills the tribesman with one of his arrows. The others gather around the now-dead god and discover that the creature is actually a much older man with long white hair. He is wearing some kind of strange, unknown outer garment with a fearful hood. They find another strange thing in the old man's possession. They are puzzled by this flat, thick object that opens and contains mysterious markings and vivid black, white, and gray images that show an even stranger human world unknown to them. In a surprising denouement provided by the old man after his death, the truth is revealed in voiceover as the tribesman pages through his book. He was actually a survivor of a long-ago nuclear holocaust, forced to live for decades inside his now ragged, discolored, and bulky radiation suit, which is implied to have been once covered with deadly radioactive fallout. The old man has wandered the land for decades, while the primitive remnants of a devastated human race have slowly increased their numbers. His frightening outer appearance caused them to fear and shun him. Final cautionary question is asked in voiceover by the old man. Will humanity someday repeat its nuclear folly after civilization has once again risen to its former height? Is it the end or not? The reception of the film, Corman thought the film to be pretty good, but felt it could have been genuinely good had he had more time and more money, maybe a better script. Variety found the film to be a good exploitation item aimed at the teen market. The Hollywood Reporter disliked the film and cited the film's low budget as the reason. Monthly Film Bulletin said the film tried hard, but was ultimately found it to be a wacky weed. Okay, that's the title, that is the synopsis, and here are the rules, as I said. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins from everybody who would like to join us this evening. You don't have to have seen the movie. We can talk about nuclear Holocaust films in general if you'd like, but if you have seen the film, we'd like to know. So I'm going to start with your call sign. Please come with your call sign, phonetically hopefully, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, Teenage Caveman from 1958. Let us begin, shall we? I will take the first check-ins.
Someone's got to do it. November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. I saw the MST3K version.
This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Somebody's got to follow up Tony. Yep, I saw this flick.
Whiskey 5, BLT, Bill. W5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato. Yes, I saw the movie, and I'm just going to listen tonight. W5, BLT.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I did see the unadulterated non-MST3K version of this movie.
Kilo 5. Julia Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell. I did not see the movie, and I'll just be in the background. Don't call me or anything. I'll be in and out. K5 JDW.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sarah Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto. Yes, I saw this movie.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise in Arlington. I did see the movie.
All right, let me go ahead and get those folks checked in. I got NT5TM Tony in Dallas. Yep, he saw it. N5BB Bill. Yep, he saw it. W5BLT Bill. Yep, he saw it, but he doesn't want to talk about it. Bill, I'll leave you the option. If you find that you need some comment to make, then go ahead and break, and we'll take your comment. But I do have you checked in. NV5F, Virginia. Yes, she saw it. K5JDW, John. No, he didn't see it, and he doesn't want to talk either. But, John, if you have anything you've got to say, just say break, and we'll bring you up. KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth, yep, he saw it. WB50ZL, Miss Brendan DeSoto, yep, she saw it. KI5KWG, that's Cruz in Arlington, yep, he saw the movie. Any additional check-ins, please?
That might not be what she has.
Whiskey Delta 5, Baker Papa X-Ray, Bobby, Wills Point, Texas.
Anyway, why?
Okay, I got WD5BPX. Did you happen?
Hey, I watched it just before the net.
All right, excellent. I've got you down as having seen the film. Okay, tonight, by the way, thank you, Tony, last week for doing a really great job on the net. It was most appreciated. He went in reverse order. I'm going to go through the regular order from top to bottom, so we will start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony has a lot of positive things to say about this film. I just can feel it. So, Tony, tell us, what did you think about the plot for Teenage Cavemen from 1958? This is KE5ICX.
Well, I'd like to comment briefly on the MST3K version, which also included two short films. They sometimes do that. I remember their wonderful bit about Progress Island. I mean, Puerto Rico. These two movies, one which depicted children being taught to water ski in an extraordinary reckless fashion, and another one which depicted a crazy wild animal trapper climbing into trees to put wildcats into flour sacks. They had a wonderful combined plot of things OSHA would tell you not to do. Also common sense. But I'm going to go with things OSHA would tell you not to do. So that covers those two movies fairly well. Now for the main feature. The plot was remarkably tedious and boring and depended way too much on that narration at the end. If someone has to come on the movie was probably generalized lack of sex and violence. This is supposed to be a Roger Corman exploitation film, but yet the violence was weak and lame. The bow and arrow that so-called teenager invented looked like it would have the power of, well, less than a Nerf gun. There just wasn't anything to keep me watching this movie. I guess there was a close-up of an iguana at one point. So yeah, we started with things OSHA would tell you not to do, and then we went into boring and needing to be explained. But you know, Crow and Tom are always a lot of fun. There was good moments there. Gypsy wasn't very good at playing poker. There was some good violence in the MST3K. Oh my goodness, there was a lot of fighting between the villains. But in the actual movie, no, not so much. Definitely would not watch again. NT5TM.
Very good. Thank you, Tony. And yes, I watched the MST3K version as well. And even though it was not as good of a picture, but I love the second short with Ross, the game hunter. That was one of the funniest sequences I think I've ever seen. I never laughed so hard as they showed what would happen to Ross if the tables were turned. But I digress. If you want to see it, go watch the MST3K version of this about 20 minutes before the movie starts. Next up is Bill, N5BB. Bill, what did you think of Teenage Caveman from 1958?
BB. I actually took notes because otherwise it was a pretty forgettable movie. So I figured I'd better take notes or I'd never remember anything. Especially since I saw it yesterday, so I had time to forget. I agree. It was kind of weaker than I expected for a Roger Corman movie. Here's my guess. Number one, he didn't have any inkling they were going to call it Teenage Caveman. It was called something like Early Human History or some other name like that. And the Teenage Caveman was made up by the distributor, just completely out of the blue as far as he was concerned. Because I didn't make a movie called Teenage Caveman. So I think that Corman, who was early in his career, that he thought that this was going to be a semi-serious movie, you know, a B flick, definitely a B or a C flick, but at least a serious movie. It wasn't supposed to be comical. It wasn't, as far as I could see, tongue-in-cheek at all. It was trying to be straight. And it was supposed to be, you know, fictional, historical. Very fictional because there's, you know, dinosaurs and magical creature kind of things in it. But it was supposed to still be a serious tale. Or some other kind of serious tale. I watched the YouTube version. In the version I saw, there are problems, I think, with the screen formatting. Sometimes it looked like part of the edges of the screen, like the image I saw was only a portion of the original film image. Like things were off the frame a little bit. And it was kind of disconcerting. It's kind of like you were photographing something with a zoom lens when you should have been backed off a ways. So I don't know if that was a problem in the filming or a problem in the conversion to the video on YouTube. My guess is it was mostly the conversion. Quality was also kind of rough. Black and white, but the range of the tonal range wasn't all that good in what I saw. Made it unpleasant to look at. It wasn't a really nice, good-looking black and white movie. N5BB break. Let's see. Other things about kind of the plot and general things about the movie. I thought the plot was stupid. Enough said there. You know, fighting lizards, dinosaurs that were just kind of in the distance, like brontosaurus-looking animals. A monster creature in some kind of fursuit. And then in the end, kind of a in the future, and this is after an atomic nuclear apocalypse kind of thing. I thought was rather, you know, it's the second movie in a row, isn't it, where it's like either a dream sequence or, you know, this isn't what it originally appeared to be, which was something in prehistory. The whole concept of some nuclear holocaust causing all these monsters and dinosaurs and huge lizards and monsters in fursuits to appear, of course, was in other 50s movies, but that doesn't mean it was a worthwhile concept. It was a horrible concept. Personally, don't remember reading regular science fiction from the main science fiction authors I read that had a lot of this stuff. This wasn't, you know, this wasn't core science fiction. This was like, this is really pulp fiction, very, very bad pulp fiction. Let's see, Inside BB. Other things about the plot that bothered me, the dog pack. These look like, of course, modern dogs. They didn't look like some odd dogs. They were just walking around. They were running around, barking and kind of maybe biting people. But they didn't look like wild dogs to me. They looked like some modern dog. Somebody let them out to have some fun, and they smelled some meat or something, and they were going over and playing with it or something. Or maybe playing with some animals they found. There were some other things about the plot that were very common. Maybe the new, this is a very standard plot thing, and it's just really expected to be in these kinds of movies, just gratuitous. Man on horse, they couldn't figure that out. Why in the world did they attack him? No reason for it. Why in the world did they say I at some point? At some point, they all started saying I, everything. Where the heck did that come from? And there was some other very stilted, kind of language in the movie that didn't make any sense. In other words, at some places they were using just regular common English phrases, things that we'd say today. And then they threw in these weird constructs, like they couldn't use a common word that we would use. They had to use some weird phrase they made up. It just made no sense at all. All this comments about symbols. That's another weird construct, was the symbol maker and everything. They could have used some other name for that. I'll have more comments later. We talk about characterization and things. But I kind of didn't look very carefully at the majority of the movie. I mean, I kind of looked at it, but I didn't follow the plot very carefully because it was too boring for me to figure out what were they doing, where were they going, why were they going there, what was wrong about crossing the river, why, who cares? A BB. That's all I got now.
Tonight's movie is on plot. Next is the other bill, W5BLT. Bill, what are your thoughts about the plot to this movie from KE5I6? Wait, he may have taken off. I forgot. He usually contributes. I got to put an X by his name since he did say he wouldn't have any comments this evening. Sorry, Bill. NV5F, Virginia. You do have comments. What did you think about the plot for this fine film from KE5I6?
KE5ICX, Internet. This is Virginia NV5F. I believe I did see this years ago when it was on MST3K. I had forgotten the plot in all those years, and it's one of those movies that was so unremarkable with all this commentary going on over it that I didn't really remember it, so it was like seeing it for the first time. I have kind of a different take on it. It was a very typical film for the day in the 50s. I'm going to actually not be as cynical as Bill was. Those were common film plots in science fiction films. The atomic thing was a big thing back then, and people were concerned about it, and it was a very widely in science fiction about it that I think I try to put myself in the the mentality of the day when I think of films from certain eras. I studied film quite a while back, and we actually did have a seminar in science fiction that I found very enjoyable. And but the other thing that went on in those days was that even quote-unquote exploitation films could only have so much in them, and the typical things were, you know, the kind of implied naked scene, which they did have, and that was probably pretty edgy to even show it instead of having like a silhouette or completely implied. And then the other thing was the implied, you know, man and woman together in a, you know, in a quote-unquote bedroom scene. They had built their little cave and they were, you know, there, but they don't ever show anything. They just imply that something just happened or is about to happen. And then taking those 2 or 3, as much as they can put of that in a movie, which they couldn't put very much, because back then all the movie standards were run by, like, the Catholic League of Decency. You could only put so much in a movie, and to get people in and call it something like Teenage Caveman and hope that teenage boys would think they were going to, you know, see some manly teenage caveman, you know, hitting on chicks, I guess. And then you get in there and you're going to sit through this whole kind of not very good movie to hope to see 2 or 3 scenes that got past the decency police, you know. So I find that all pretty common and typical. Watching this, and over that too much, but I was watching it thinking, man, look at all these, you know, hairless, clean-shaven, you know, well-groomed cave people, and, you know, nobody was grimy or rough-looking. They were all smooth and waxed and beautiful, and, of course, that was the standard of the day, too. It was all about, you know, just looking, you know, being a movie star was all about looking pretty. And then their weird phraseology, like Bill, I noticed they used a couple of Scottish words, cairn and I, which I think are interesting. I was like, I don't know why they would throw those words in, but I think that the plot twist at the end makes some of those things, like cavemen who don't look like, you know, stereotypical cavemen and cavemen who use weird phrases, the plot twist at the end showing that they were post-atomic Holocaust cavemen, kind of threw back everything, made it less cheesy. I was like, well, you know, that they're, you know, they've come from civilization, and now they have all these leftovers from that, and they may not remember where they came from, but, you know, they've still got some, like, technology and the development of the human mind before the Holocaust and all that. So that actually, the plot twist at the end kind of threw the rest of the movie into a different light for me. You know, the pack of cave dogs, you know, if they were left over from domesticated full breed dogs, that make a lot more sense when you're seeing like a pack of Great Danes and Irish Wolfhounds. The weird dinosaurs that were actually, one of them looked like a Kaminosaurs from the atomic fallout, you know. So it kind of made the movie seem to visually and culturally make a little more sense to me. You know, all that being said, it was pretty cheesy, and the story was pretty trite and took forever to set up when it could have been half the length it was. And I, being very tender-hearted, actually felt very bad for, you know, the guy on the horse getting killed. There was no need for that, like Bill said. And then the old guy at the end getting killed, and, you know, they brought him into the mix, I guess, after they got through all the other weird monsters they could have. They finally bring this guy in his radiation suit, which I don't know why he still felt like he had to wear it after all that time. But anyway, I could go on and on. But I think that it, you know, it was called the Caveman movie to, I think, get people in the door, and I think it had the typical, you know, cheesy Hollywood 50s atomic movie, you know, and I figured out what was going on without the narration at the end. I think that was just thrown in for a little bit of clarification and, you know, to add some emotion and drama and to make it into sort of a warning, which is what a lot of these atomic kind of movies were. And you know, the generations, the father and the son, and the cheesy bow and arrow, I did laugh at that. That was pretty corny. Like, and the other thing that killed me was when he killed, like, the elk or the, you know, the whatever it was, and he had it slung over his shoulders, and it was obviously like a stuffed, you know, it was all stiff and stuffed, and there was some stuff that just, you know, made me laugh pretty hard, but overall, you know, it was what typically things were back then, and could have been better, and I'm guessing Roger Corman probably directed it, and then it was all chopped up and made into something maybe totally different than what he had originally made, so which happened a lot back then too. So I could go on and on. I will turn it back over to Net, KE5ICX NV5F.
Good. Thank you, Virginia, and thanks for your comments. I wrote some notes here for me at the end. Thanks to you. Next up is KB9SOK. That'd be Sean over in Fort Worth. Sean, what did you think about the plot for Teenage Caveman from 1958?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. As everybody's already said, it was pretty slow. You know, just, well, painfully slow at times. I was definitely a little bit like the Mystery Science Theater guys are saying, is this thing over yet? Because it was painfully slow. Yeah, too, I didn't think it was too hard to follow either. Actually, you know, it made, you know, there towards the end, obviously, once you saw the book, you knew what had happened. Really didn't need the explanation. I agree with that. But just a super simple plot that we've seen, you know, a million times, a cautionary tale. And we've also not just seen so much cautionary tale, but just we've seen many times where they show the human race starting over and over and over, is the theory that some have, that we keep making the same mistakes. So yeah, just what it was. Yeah, in the end, what you find out, I think it does make a lot of sense of why their language was the way it was and why they were developed as far as they were. This really wasn't a caveman tale, which made more sense. Because at the very beginning, I kept thinking, wow, they don't look like cavemen really at all, and they don't act like cavemen very little, other than just they did the art and they just had basic tools. Yeah, parts of the movie I agree was kind of comical, like the bow scene, and it was just overall, not to just keep dwelling on it, but it was just kind of slow, kind of boring. Really wouldn't recommend it unless you're watching the Mystery Science guys. That made it somewhat entertaining, but overall, just boring. Back to Net, KB9SOK.
Right, thank you, Sean. Boring, okay. WB50ZL, Brenda, what did you think of our movie this evening, plot-wise?
This is WB50ZL. Well, this is so typical of movies of the day, the cautionary tale. You know, there's some kind of nuclear event, and then for some reason people revert to caveman status. Nobody can seem to imagine a different kind of a future where everybody is back to basics. But it's, you know, typical. You gotta have some fighting, you gotta have some conflict, some arguing, a lot of bickering, and some chases. You're chased by dogs, you're chased by animals, and that's the formula for an exciting. So the status quo, and they making the rules, and the young man doesn't like the rules. And by the way, Robert Vaughn was about 26 at the time. I don't think he was cast to be a teenager. I don't think that was the idea. But he was pretty good, and such a great actor. The following year, he got an Oscar nomination for the Philadelphians. So, I mean, you could see his potential there. They were lucky to get him because he was a nobody at the time. He had just made several really had several insignificant parts before this. So Roger Corman is so famous for bringing it in under budget in 3 days. I'm sure that's what happened. Not sure who wrote the script or why or how, but it was pretty uninspired, in my opinion. It's just a hack, just so typical of its day, and I hate to be critical because it was a different time, and teenagers made up a lot of the movie-going population, and this would appeal to a lot of teenagers with the fist fights and arguing and all that, and fighting big lizards and going off on adventures, and you know, the whole thing would, I think, be exciting to young people. You think of all the other movies that we've seen, so many of them are so much like this. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Hey, thank you, Brenda. And yeah, I'm going to digress just for a minute because I just looked him up. His name is Robert Campbell, who was credited for writing the screenplay. He is the brother of actor William Campbell, the guy who played the Klingon in Star Trek and also in what was played Trelane. But his brother wrote for Marcus Welby, Maverick, a few television shows, Hawaiian Eyes, all the Pop 12 O'Clock High, Hell's Angels on Wheels. He also wrote a number of novels. In fact, he wrote about 20 novels. So apparently the guy had some writing chops, and he could do well, but I guess maybe this was a bad time for him. That seems to happen a lot. Just thought I'd mention that. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, I know you've got some interesting comments about this film, and I'll bet you even stuck it out to the end. So tell us, what did you think about the plot for Teenage Caveman?
I keep hearing Teenage Wasteland all week long while working through this film. Yeah, I'm sorry, KI5KWG. Thank you, Tom. No one mentioned it. I was kind of surprised. So far, no one's mentioned it. What was the point of the Genesis paraphrase at the beginning of the story, which seemed to have nothing to do with the rest of the story? And you had the narrator doing the voiceover at the beginning and the end, but there wasn't an occlusio. It wasn't like bookends. It wasn't here's A, now we're going to tell you a tale, and here's A again at the end. Or, you know, it seemed like at some point they thought they were going to do some sort of at least spiritual, if not outright theological story through this. Let me reset. And then we had the young character that the community is talking about killing for infringing the law, and the discussion comes up that this young character has actually done away with the law by going basically, well, I don't want to change the idiom here. I was going to say going where no man has gone before. But I was thinking, okay, well, this is clearly a Jesus character, and you've got the old man says peace and then gets killed, and I'm like, okay, so we've got another Jesus character going on here. But the rest of the story did nothing that I saw with any of that. So the plot was so convoluted. I really think they changed very often where they were going with it, and we got the bits and pieces that were left over. That's all I've got on the plot. KI5, KWG, back to Nat.
Comment. I think that we were so worn down from this nothing plot that we completely forgot about the preamble opening sequence that was out of the Commandments, because the other 8 weren't interesting enough for us to continue. Okay, next up is Bobby, WD5BPX. Bobby, what did you think about the plot for tonight's movie, Teenage Caveman, from KE5ICX?
Well, everybody else is coming in on. I'm coming in on tail end of this, so not a whole lot. But I'm a little older, and at that time, everybody built a bomb shelter. They would tell you in school what to do in case of some kind of attack. So, the state of mind during that period wasn't anything like what we got now. And there are a couple of things that were pointed out in there. You had one man who kind of tried to take charge by generating fear and follow the rules. Sometimes rules are just there to control people and no reality to them. And they killed the man on the horse simply out of fear. They are, well, the unknown. They had fell back into a period of just being afraid of the unknown. The controller there, he really wanted to kill anybody that opposed him and didn't follow his rules. So, anyway, I'm not too critical of the show for the period of time and technology that was available. I try to just enjoy it as a show. So, all right, back to net control.
All right, thank you, Bobby, and I think you made some good comments as well, and got some notes from that as well. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead, and before I make my own comments, I'll see if there's anyone else that is listening who would like to join us this evening. Tonight's movie that we're discussing is Teenage Caveman from 1958. If you've seen this film, or even if you haven't and you like to check in and let us know you're out there, please do so now. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and did you see Teenage Caveman? Please come now.
K5JDW with a comment.
All right, John, you're back. K5JDW, what'd you think? What do you got for us?
Never left. Actually, you were talking about some scene earlier where you could see someone, naked from the back, and I was wondering, was it? I didn't see the movie, so I can't comment. But was it just one of those things where they were trying to show somebody really vulnerable, like that old Hitchcock film? I can't remember what it's called, Thriller. I can't remember what it's called, where somebody comes up behind somebody in the shower from the back. Was it just to show somebody's vulnerability, or was it just thrown in there to keep the teenagers watching? Anyway.
All right, John, I don't know. Being net control, you get the advantage of listening to everybody's comments, and then it kind of forms your opinion or changes your opinion as you go. And I think Bobby, for me, actually kind of changed my opinion a little bit about this film, and that is that it is a product of its time. The great thing of, that the great fear that everyone had was being a nuclear bomb and destroying everything and sending us all back to the Stone Age, to borrow a phrase. And I think that was probably what the biggest thing that was supposed to come out of this with the twist ending. The problem I had with it is that obviously our writer, Mr. Campbell, had the ability to write a decent script. I don't know if he was taxed for time or whether there was something that, or he wasn't given an option, or this is just a one-off. Here's $200, write a script, or $500, write a script, and do it quick. I got to have it by 7 o'clock in the morning. Maybe something like that. I don't know. We've had the benefit of a lot of films through the years that have done this story. The most famous one, of course, is Planet of the Apes, where we find out, and then was it Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which is probably more of a closer allegory, but not with the reveal that we got in the first film. I just could see, and Bobby brought it up a little bit, is that, where's man's humanity, where's man's justice, where's man's compassion? These are all topics that are part of every story that's ever done, but it was kind of ineptly handled here. I think it could have been done much see this as a decent Twilight Zone episode. In fact, I can think of 2 or 3 Twilight Zone episodes that had a similar type story with a reveal. Where you discovered, oh, okay, that makes sense. This is why they went down this path. This is why they acted the way they did. Even that terrible episode of, was it Star Trek, the Omega Glory with Isla Mista, remember? The one with the Khans and the Yangs, the communists and the Yankees. That has that element. Of course, that one was ineptly done too when we got pulled out the old Stars and Stripes with a big reveal, and then it went downhill after that. But even in that story, there were little pieces. It shouldn't be a complete reveal and a surprise to us. We should have said, oh, I should have known that all along. The radiation suit doesn't look anything like a radiation suit. The animals that are supposed to have been changed because of because of the radiation and that, which also was very popular in movies. They looked like stop-action dinosaurs and some weird stuff that happened. It didn't make a lot of sense. If the characters looked, or if the animals looked more humanish, or not human, but more Earth-like, I suppose it would have worked. I don't know. It's just kind of strange. But if you're going to do something like that, I think you could probably make it more closely if you're going to talk about the law and the things that would happen. How would you create something that would be an allegory for what we exist with today? And how would you make that work better? Maybe a more protagonist had maybe the lawgiver could have given us a little more in the way of direct quotes that maybe came out of from the ancient text, like it was in the Omega Glory or something, but very small snippets that would only be picked up by somebody who's really paying attention. Instead, we had a lot of nothing going on and a lot of disjointed scenes running into one another. It didn't make sense. The movie was an hour and 10 minutes long. They could have done 5 or 6 acts that would have worked really well, and what they did was just repeat the same things over and over again. So I'm very confused. I can see why Corman was kind of happy with the movie and then not happy with it at the same time. It had a nice final twist ending, but it was so ineptly handled up to that point. Why bother? I don't know. That's how I felt about it. but then I have the benefit of having seen all of these dozens of these same films. What did we do? The Tribesman, the one with the song that you could sing along at the beginning, his adventure was more interesting. Plus, we actually got to see what they had the people underground and all that, doing all the things that people underground do. Who knows? Maybe this was the first. I don't know. And maybe that's why he thought so highly of the film, even though it didn't really work out all that well. All right, this is KE5ICX. Let's go to the next round, which is talking about characterization. Ooh, boy, what will this be like? I have a feeling this one may go fast, but we'll find out. We'll start at the top of the list. That would be Tony and T5TM. Tony, what did you think of our cast of characters? The teenage...
Thank you. I'd like to thank Bobby, is the name? Robert, Bob? And in Virginia for trying to get me to be more sympathetic towards the movie. I really do have a hard spot in my heart for 1950s movies. I feel like movies should have gotten better in a continuous stream from the 20s to the modern day, and instead in that kind of Cold War, conformist, production code, heavy censorship era, they all seem to get worse. And although it's worth noting that Godzilla was a 1950s movie, and a brilliant one. So they could do better, even if they didn't in Hollywood. So I really liked the way the MST3K people gave fake names to the characters, like Trevor and Kevin, because they were generally not memorable. I think the hair gel should have had a name and been credited, because that was practically a character of its own. There was so much hair gel. But yeah, really found the characters uninteresting and didn't engage with them. And thank you, my fellow net participants, for trying to get me to be more sympathetic, but I just don't have anything nice to say. NT5TM.
Okie dokie, thank you, Tony. Well, you tried. Next up is Bill, N5BB. Bill, your thoughts on characterization. I know you got something because you took notes from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is N5BB, characterization acting. I have similar feelings of Tony and some things Tom said in his last comments. Just because this movie was made in the 50s, it wasn't made in like 1950 or 51 or 55. It was made in 1958. They'd already had all these atomic bug movies, The Bug Grow, and all the other kind of stuff. And, just because there's a lot of other junky movies doesn't mean you have to make one more of them. That's my, problem with this. There are other ideas in the universe than these kind of tropes. Anyway, I don't feel all that sympathetic. I do think, as far as, acting and characterization, I actually believe that Robert Vaughn did a reasonably good job. If you actually look at his acting, he was making an effort, and he was, thinking about things, and he was controlled in what he did. He wasn't just out of control, and, it isn't clear to me what the author really... Got to remember, we got somebody writing the screenplay. We got Roger Corman, I believe, directing and producing it, which means he may have gone far away from the screenplay. And then you got the distributor, and by the time you get to them, you don't know if they're definitely changed the name of the movie. For all we know, they may have cut some things and lengthened some things and changed the order of things. So changed a little bit, for all we know. But I thought that Robert Vaughn actually did okay, given what he was dealt with. You know, how would anybody else do it better? You know, considering probably the script he was given, the direction, and you know how much time they had, which is probably 2 days or something for some of these parts of the movie. I also think that Dara Marshall. She didn't do a lot. She was rather restrained in what she did, the female love interest. And I think she probably did what was requested of her, and I can't really fault what she did, I just think they were dealt a pretty bad, deck of cards in what they were dealt. Leslie Bradley, I guess, was the symbol maker. The guy that was so... Was he the guy that was so bad? No, the black bearded one. I just didn't like that character, He wanted to kill everybody, and he did kill as many people as he could. He didn't like anything. I don't know. I didn't like that characterization. I really wish they hadn't written that character. What else? I agree completely with, I guess, Virginia saying, maybe somebody else also, all these people are, so many, not all of them, but so many of them are clean-shaven. They're trimmed hair. Nobody had, hair all over the place. If you looked at them from the rear, their hair in the rear was nicely shaped and trimmed. It did not look like anybody let their hair grow out for this movie or wore... most of them didn't wear wigs or anything. And there weren't very many women. And the women, other than the rest, there was just, what was it, the mom or something, and not much else. So, it was very male-centric in 5BB. Let me see. What else can I say about characterization and acting? So most of the rest of the acting was kind of by rote, and there wasn't a lot of story to act out. It was just a little, let's fight over here, let's go over there for no reason, let's sit here and argue about something for little reason, kind of meaningless arguments and things. So I don't think there was a lot of plot to characterize, to lead to a lot of acting and characterization in 5BB. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Bill. Got some notes on you, too. Let's see here. Next up, and Bill at W5BLT, he says that he's having a little problem with voice tonight. So he did like the movie, but he just can't comment because he's lost his voice. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, your thoughts on characterization for teenage cavemen from KE5ICX.
KE5ICX in the net. This is NV5F. Well, let's see. All the talk of teenage wasteland has made me want to... Answering the question from a little while ago about the naked bathing scene, that was gratuitous. There was nothing in there with suspense or vulnerability or anything like that. It was actually exactly what they would put in a movie like this. It kind of reminded me of the scene in the skiing adventure with the Chewbacca monster a few weeks ago. There was a silhouetted, shadow of the female lead being disrobing. It was a similar idea. It was just hers was a little more about vulnerability because there was a monster on the loose, but she didn't know it yet. But this was more just, to get the teenagers out to the theater. And I think that's what the title of the movie had to do with, because the actor obviously was not a teenager. but they wanted to characterize him as young and idealistic, and I think per some earlier comments about the introductory monologue quoting Genesis, I think maybe the idea was to set up that in people's minds, and then when they see the plot twist at the end, to kind of relate it to the fact that when things are thrown into chaos or thrown kind of backwards technologically, that people, how quickly and easily people forget knowledge and science and all the things that technology affords us the time to pursue. Those things kind of get forgotten, and that things like superstitions and religion, like the religion practiced by the characters in the movie, that maybe that's the point, is that it kind of throws us back to a more sort of religious state, I suppose, as a culture as a whole. I saw an attempt to have some good characters here. You've got the young man, and then you've got his father who gets injured, and their relationship, and how the father has that, hey son, I tried that, it didn't work, just stay back here. And that's a pretty typical just plot in general in a movie where there's a character who's, it's like the hero's journey. He's being told somehow that there's something better out there, and he has to ignore everyone around him who's telling him he's crazy, or that it's just not, there's no point to it, or that it's too dangerous, and he's got to throw off, he's got to face all those rejections of his notions, and very bravely do what he feels is right. And I think that was the basic idea for his character. And his father wanted to kind of support him in a way, and had to go out and find him. And the typical character of the guy who's running the show by using the rules to control everybody, that's pretty common. Old theme about people using old ideas to try to control people who have new ideas. And then there's the genuine, sincere, kind of sage-like, old spirited guy who was there when the law was instated, and he knows the background of it, and he probably has a little bit better of an inkling as to why. And so I see the characters here trying to be, they're stereotypes, but I saw some attempt at having, some good characters that we can relate to. The young man who wants to start a life with his girlfriend, but at the same time is drawn away to this, this new land, and it's so much more wonderful if we weren't so afraid, and there's this guy trying to make everybody afraid. So I saw some glimmer of pretty decent characters. I still contend that if you took this idea, even just the caveman idea, and the plot twist and the reveal at the end, and did it a little better, and a little more realistically, where people weren't all like, hadn't had every hair waxed off of their body and didn't still have perfect haircuts, and make it a little more believable that they were cavemen, so that the plot twist at the end, with the culture, kind of cavemen, but sort of, why are these cavemen kind of strange? And then you realize that they're not cavemen, they're modern men who descended into, some chaos and uncivilized living because they had to, or whatever. So I saw some, I seem to always be an advocate of what I see is trying to happen there. And the acting, some of the acting was okay, some of it was wooden, and some of the, most of the characters were pretty one-dimensional, but of course you have the typical people who get killed. You gotta have some people get killed, and it's kind of sad, but anyway, that's my short version of what I think of the characters. Not half bad in places. The ideas are pretty good. They just weren't very well executed.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Thanks for putting a positive, somewhat of a positive spin on there. Let's see. Next up, we'll skip John until he comes back and has something to say. KB9SOK is Sean. Sean, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX.
This is KB9SOK. I'm not sure I really have a whole lot to add. I agree. I think they did the best they could with the script that they had. There was definitely, I think most of the supporting cast was pretty wooden. Not a whole lot there. Vaughn probably did the best job for sure. Obviously went on to do great things afterwards. And definitely had much better roles. But, not a whole lot really. Just wasn't a lot to work with plot-wise. So, you really can't, I don't think we can blame the actors too much here. But, like it's already been said, it was a pretty simple plot, and I think the best that they did that they could. So back to that, KB9SOK.
Okay, got you down, Sean, on that one. Next up is WV50ZL. Miss Brenda, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX.
This is WV50ZL. Well, it's pretty stereotypical. You've got the handsome young fellow and the pretty girl, and not just the whole, and it's very, the plots didn't help much to develop the characters. Just no surprises there at all, and there just wasn't a whole lot of meat left on these bones. But they were just kind of a vehicle to show us people in skimpy clothes and the fighting and the arguing and breaking the rules and all that. So there weren't really very many interesting characters in this. All right, back to net, WV50ZL.
We're blowing through this section. Well, let's go to Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what did you think of characters for Teenage Caveman from 1958?
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf. On characterization, I only really have one note, and I'm going to go ahead and slide into the effects, etc. On this one for brevity. So on characterization, I noted that several times the actors looked confused. I thought they were all actually pretty good. Certainly theater training and experience. But if you're watching, they really did have this confused look, and I finally decided that giving bad lines and having no direction was apparently very new to them, and that would explain that confusion. That was kind of how I viewed everybody throughout this. Vaughn maybe accepted his dad, the puppy killer, the symbol maker also, and the bearded, fearful guy that wanted everybody else fearful as well. I thought those three stood out. Oh, and the blonde, of course, in her little black cocktail skin. And, but for the most part, I thought there was talent there. I just don't think much was made of it. And then I told you I'd slide into the other part besides the little black cocktail skin quip is it was strange with that comical bow and arrow that the boy was using. I swear that was a K-bar he was wearing on his hip the whole time. It was a long knife and a white sheath, and I was like, well, he's got a better weapon there. And never used it. I thought that was interesting. And I think I am out of my notes. Oh, yeah, I'll come back with something else at the end because it's slightly off topic, but it's for us. And KI5, KWG, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Cruz. I think we're going to have enough time for another round here, so we'll move on to Bobby, WD5PPX. Characterization. I'm looking over here on Echolink, which is where he originated from. I do not see him. He must have slipped off, so I'm just going to mark him as absent unless I see him pop back on. Okay, my comments on the characterizations, they were all pretty much stereotypical characters you would expect from cavemen. I don't know, there wasn't anything that was particularly amazing about it. I agree with Cruz. I think that the actors were fine. I think they probably could have pulled it off if they had a better script and maybe a little better direction. Probably would have gone somewhere. But it just did not. Vaughn actually did seem convincing, but Robert Vaughn plays Robert Vaughn. All of the mannerisms that you saw is the same thing he did with Napoleon Solo and in that series he did in the 1970s. I can't think of the name of it, but it was done in England, and he was in it. And it was basically him doing the role. Magnificent Seven, the same thing. And then, what is it, that Roger Corman film that he appeared in again, which was, what was the name of that thing? Back in the 90s. I'll think of it. It's probably here somewhere. Or the 80s, I should say, 1980. I'll look it up here real quick. Oh, man, he's done so many movies, and I can't think of it. Oh, God, that was a terrible film. 3D one, too. I can't think of the film. I'll find it. He appeared in and played, again, his typical role. So he's played to type, cast to type, basically, and this is just him being him, which is perfectly fine. I didn't have any problems with that. There was a comment earlier, and I'll mention this, why did they have these movies and why did they start falling apart? Let me just fill my section out before I yield back my time, and that is that you got to remember, baby boomers were just coming up. They were, what, in their teens, early teens, maybe, middle school, something like that. And what do they want to do? They want to go see a movie. They want to get out of the house. Television, on the other hand, is starting to take hold, and parents are watching that on their big, tiny, expensive television sets. So the kids are getting out so they can do something without the parents around. So these movies catered to that all through the 50s, and I think that's probably what happened. Typically, they were paired as double features, so they would be done during the day, typically. And that also got the kids out of the parents' hair on a weekend. So these films were perfect diversion for that sort of thing. Babysitter and escapism. So, and mainly for teens. All right, we're going to go to the top of the list. We got about 18 minutes. I think we can get through it. We'll open it up to anything you want to talk about. This can be have anything to do with special effects, anything you missed along the way, music, lighting, props, you name it, whatever it is. So we'll start at the top with Tony, NT5TF. Tony, what do you got for us? Parting shots on this film from KE5ITX.
Really not much to say. I want to thank everyone for sharing the comments. It makes it a lot more fun to me than the movie itself usually is. I hope we get something better or more interesting that I can get into and try to think about a little bit more. And I really would like to say something more constructive other than I don't like it. But sometimes the motivation is just not there. So I have high hopes for the future. Thank you all for being here, NT5TM.
Quick sign off. Okay, I'm desperately looking for next week's movie. N5BB, Bill, your thoughts on anything you want to say about the film, including special effects?
Yeah, this is N5BB. Now, special effects. I'm sure those bad scenes of dinosaurs and lizards and monsters were probably used in multiple films, probably made by Roger Corman. Or he borrowed them from somebody else. And they were par for the course. Let's see. What can you say about that? The clothes. This is stupid. They all had what looks like identical clothing nearly. Cut very cleanly, nice and smooth. Most of them, it's like they had a uniform. They were all wearing the same uniform. And they were all slung just exactly, over one shoulder or whatever. And they were, the women's one kind of looked like they were swimsuits. It was just so crazy. It was so formulaic. There was no individuality to it. Where did they get the clothes from? How did they make them? Why did they look identical to each other? Made no sense. They were the same color. They were the same finish. Nobody was dirty. There wasn't any dirt. The skins were perfect. It's like they were all wearing makeup. Like we said earlier, their hair was all immaculate. And a lot of the men were shaven, and it didn't make any sense at all. All that was crazy. The music. I actually listened to the music in part of it, and it was okay. It actually was not too schlocky. Did you listen to the music? I'd like some comments from other people on the music. It was just fine for a movie of this type, this quality. I think that there's a concept, an idea for a movie that I don't know if Corman had it or the screenwriter did. Whoever had the concept, probably a combination of them. There's a concept for a movie, and then there's what we watch, the result. Title it had, edited the way they had, etc. I think, if you take out all the monsters and a few other schlocky things in it, the concept for the movie was actually okay. I mean, the basic plot line ideas, and, this was, I think, about the first movie I can remember. They had such an interesting reveal, kind of like a Twilight Zone reveal about, this is actually in the future rather than the past. How many years later it was, mid-60s. So I think that was actually an interesting plot line. And some other things about the plot, him trying to kind of break out and the young guy trying to do things against his elders was fine. That was all fine. So I think some of these ideas were fine. The execution, I think, was rotten. The language they used, just the poor choice of words and dialogue, and the details of not the plot, not the overall plot, but the detailed little plot things were boring and not very good. So I think it was an interesting concept, poorly executed. That's my synopsis for the movie. N5BB. Thanks.
right, thank you, Bill, and I would ditto that. Next, NV5F, Virginia, your thoughts on anything you want to say about the film, including special effects from KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, internet, NV5F. Well, I think we wore Bill down a little bit. I think he softened on this a little bit in the last hour. I will agree with him on the costumes. Some of the supposed skins, I guess, that they were wearing looked like polyester fabric of some kind, cleanly cut. I think that, the point was to show a lot of skin, and if you didn't know it was a post-apocalyptic reversion to caveman living film, you would almost swear it looked take somebody. Everybody looked like porcelain, like marble statues of Greek gods with their perfect skin and their nice haircuts. And even the bearded guys, their beards were all, pretty like a sculpture of Socrates or something. And I mean, of course, everyone in the movies is wearing makeup, but the makeup shouldn't look like makeup, and it should have looked, I think things should have been a little more gritty, but, this is Hollywood. They were just trying to get people to come look at pretty people with as little clothing as you could get away with in 1958. The special effects with the animals dressed as dinosaurs, the main problem I had with the special effects in that sense was that there was no scale. They didn't show them in a rear projected, setting with the characters in the foreground, trying to show any kind of scale on them. I think the effects were okay, but they just didn't have any point of reference. There was no frame of reference, so we could know that these were big dinosaur-like creatures or whatever. So that's my main problem with the special effects that were there. And then the radiation suit, quote-unquote, sort of creature didn't make a lot of sense. I think after that long, a guy wouldn't have been wearing a radiation suit anymore. But I think they still just needed that mystery of what is this creature that can kill you by touching you or whatever. It was a little bit, didn't have a lot of logic to it, but, and I didn't really listen very closely to the music, but I think that I don't really notice. I mean, the music is doing what it should be doing, and if you're not specifically thinking about it and you don't notice it, usually when I notice the music when I'm not thinking about the music, it's usually because it's bad. So I think the music was probably okay. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to try to keep it short here at the end. So anyway, curious what other people will have to say. KE5ICX, NV5F.
Thank you, Virginia, for your comments this evening. Appreciate it. And, I'm a soundtrack fan. I love motion picture music. That's the bulk of my music that I collect. And I love bombastic scores, and I love clever scores, and I love particularly science fiction stuff because they have to be so imaginative. So I agree and I disagree. I love them both. If it works well, that's great. If it's forgettable but works, that's fine because it's meant to manipulate your thoughts. But bombastic scores I absolutely adore as well. So if you hear the music and it's front and center and better than the movie, that's perfectly fine by me. Next up, KB9SOK. Sean, your final comments. What do you think about the film or anything you may have left on the table from the previous round? KE5ICX.
This is KB9SOK. Not a whole lot to add here. As everybody's already mentioned, the effects were pretty bad. The costumes weren't good. The props were pretty rough. As everybody made a comment about the funny bow, you can hand make a bow though. Obviously very low budget apparently, and Not a lot there. Yeah, I didn't really notice the music that much on this particular film. I do also enjoy a lot of the sci-fi type music, but this one I just didn't notice it at all. So I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Overall, I mean, it's by far not the worst thing we've seen. I don't know if it's the worst movie of all time. I think somebody said that. But it was just kind of boring. It's very basic. As always, though, I enjoy listening to everybody on here. It's always interesting, and very much enjoy the net. Sit back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean, for your comments this evening. Next up, WB50ZL. Brenda, your parting comments on tonight's movie.
WB50ZL. I agree about the costumes. They were pitiful. They're obviously woven fabric. I don't know how I would explain that. These people would be wearing furs and animal skins. And maybe they thought it had the look and feel of that. I do love the poster of the naked girl in the water, the guy with the spear fighting off the huge dinosaur. There was never any explanation as why we even had dinosaurs, as you know, whether these are cavemen or people in the future that regressed into caveman status. There just isn't any reason for there to be dinosaurs there. And typically, boy, have we seen a lot of those with the out-of-place dinosaurs. Typically, there's some next world where the dinosaurs never went extinct, but there's just no explanation about that here. And it was, I think, in keeping with the budget, they had stock footage of some dinosaurs, or maybe they filmed some lizards. So I think they were just trying to make it more exciting and more dangerous. But it was pretty lame. Music was forgettable, I guess, to me. And there was a 2002 version of Teenage Cavemen. But apparently the only thing in common was the name, which I can't believe anybody would look at that. Well, let's remake it now with modern effects. All I can say is they tried, low budget, short time, trying to make something interesting and exciting. That's about the best you can do with what you had. As Roger Corman said, given time and money, we could have made a much better movie. And I'm sure that's true of a whole lot of movies. Back to that, WB50ZL.
Yeah, well, I thank you, Brenda, but, you can look at a movie like 20th Century Fox Cleopatra, which they spent tons and tons of money on and almost bankrupt the studio in, 1966, and have a lot of, use up all the resources, but even then, that turned out to be a crummy movie. Next up, KI5KWG. Cruz, your final comments, anything you want, go ahead.
One of our bills, I've forgotten now who mentioned it. I should have written it down. Talking about, you can say it's a product of its time, but, Forbidden Planet was 2 years before this, and there are scales of difference there. And this was 7 years after The Day the Earth Stood Still, and again, we're orders of magnitude off. But with that thought, I was actually looking those up and getting their years. When I was about 14 or 15 on the local PBS station, Channel 13, right here in Dallas-Fort Worth, they ran 3 what they considered classic science fiction films, and back to back, and I watched them all. And the first one was The Day the Earth Stood Still, and it was the first I'd ever seen that film. The next one, I'm going to save that for last because that's my suggestion. And the third one was Dr. Strangelove, also the first time I saw that film. Fell in love with both of those films. And that's 1951 for The Day the Earth Stood Still, Dr. Strangelove in 1964. Okay, so here's where I'm going. Panic in the Year Zero was included in that trilogy of films, and that's from 1962. And it's almost unknown from what I can tell. But it was very interesting, and I bring it up because it's a post or it's a during global nuclear war, and it's a family survival. And I thought it had a really interesting take, and I haven't seen anything like that except you've got people very interesting and quite a few steps above what we were being taught of duck and cover in those days. That's what I had for you, and I don't know what the availability would be, but it would be fun to watch with and tear apart with this group. I'm KI5, KWG, back to net.
Bruce, thanks for your comment. I always find your parting comments really interesting, and as you were speaking, I went to look for the movie. Panic in the Year Zero from 1962 is available. It's on Daily Motion. That one may be somewhat problematical, but we'll see. It is listed as there. If it's available, then we'll see about putting it on the list. I have no problems with that at all. I very much would like to see it. Let's see, other comments. For me, the special effects weren't very special, as you can quite imagine. Music was okay. I don't disagree. I think it was serviceable. Beginning and end music was quite good. Overall, photography was okay. I don't think there was anything really super memorable about it. I think the movie kind of fell in the middle of the road mediocrity. It could have been worse. It certainly could have been better. It just kind of fell in the middle, and I think that's why it doesn't get a lot of airplay and doesn't get a lot of attention, because it's not a train wreck in progress, and it's not Shakespearean quality. So you've got something instead, something else. So I have no problems with it. Overall, I enjoyed this. I thought it was okay. It was moved very, very slowly, and even with the action scenes, very slow. The monsters were slow. Everything about it was just cumbersome and clunky. All right, those are my comments. Does anybody have any final comments they want to bring to the net this evening? Please come with your call now.
DigNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m.
Kilo India 5, Sierra X-ray Echo.
KI5SXE, that's Brandon. Welcome back, Brandon. What do you got for us?
Yeah, guys, I saw the movie. I fell asleep sometime in Skynet and woke up about halfway through this. But I saw the movie. I thought it was a complete waste of an hour of my life that I couldn't get back until the end kind of flipped it on its head. And so, music-wise, I noticed in the beginning, I thought it was kind of just canned music, like, you know, there's nothing special, and then it started to pick up. So I can see where you did like the music here, and I will say, I don't know if anybody mentioned it while I was kind of passed out, but there was like the future prophetic saying at the end, as he was kind of just talking about how man, you know, continues to kind of go down this path and revisit history over and over and over again. I thought it was kind of appropriate given, you know, the conflicts in today's world. And they mentioned the towers being raised, basically, and I was like, this is years and years before the two towers fell, but I just thought that was kind of ironic. Look for ghosts and find them, but I just wanted to throw that out there. This is KI5SXE, back to net control.
All right, thanks for your comments and getting them in just under the end of the wire here. Anyone else have any additional comments they want to make before I tell you what next week's movie is? Please come with your call.
NT5TM, Quebec Alpha.
KG5BZW.
Oh my goodness, I got three. So first off, at the top of the in this order, I've got NT5TM, N5SQA, and KG5BZW. We'll start with Tony. Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, the title of that other movie Cruz was mentioning, was it called Mechanic in the Year Zero or Panic in the Year Zero? I was going to make a note of it, NT5TM.
That is Panic in the Year Zero.
Thank you very much, NT5TM.
Very good. It says it's available on Daily Motion, so there's a little problem. Facebook doesn't like Daily Motion, but let me find out what I can do on that. Next up is Ron, N5SQA. Ron, welcome. What do you got this evening?
Thanks, Tom. I just got back to the shack and turned on the radio and was surprised to hear you guys on here. Just wanted to say hello. Keep doing what you're doing, N5SQA.
Good. Thank you, Ron. Thanks for your support. I appreciate it. Even though we get you late, it's nice to know others are listening and they make themselves known. Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, we missed you this evening, but I see you're here now. What you got for us?
W5FC.
All right, let me try this. KG5Bs. Yeah, okay. So, weirdly enough, signal reception from transmission reception to Dallas is weak at the moment, so I guess I have to use Echolink. I too fell asleep before this net. I was like, I woke up kind of in the middle of it, and I'm glad you have caught it and caught everybody. I'm still kind of loopy from being asleep, but yeah, the film, it was boring. I mean, it started off okay, got really boring, and then kind of got whiplash from the pre-Planet of the Apes movie kind of ending, which was actually kind of made still, even though it was really slapped on, kind of just at the end. It literally just was narration just to make the film more interesting. But yeah, I'm glad. I just wanted to say hello again, or hello, not hello again, but hello, and that's all. KG5BZW.
Well, thanks for checking in, Jay, even though you got in kind of late. But we're glad you're here, and you are one of the regulars. All right, let's see. Next week's movie, everybody write this down. I will send this information out Don't forget, if you're listening and you would like to find out about the movies ahead of time, you can do exactly that. Join the Facebook group, which is Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie. So you want to be a part of it. If you're not a Facebook fan, we can send you an email. Just use my call sign, KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com, and say, I want to be signed up for the Afterglow movie. You'll get the information usually Sunday morning before 10 o'clock. Next week's movie for August 27th is Red Planet Mars. Red Planet Mars from 1952. Now, we've had some turkeys. This has been 1950s month. All the films have been from the 1950s. However, this one, Red Planet Mars, is considered a good film. I guess we will find out. It has a lot of the Red Menace stuff in it, and it's gotten generally good reviews. So we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat. Even with this turkey, the first color episode of Lost in Space from the second season. I think it's Blast Off into Space. And then I'm going to bed probably about halfway through this thing. See you all. 7-3. Have a very good Sunday. It is Sunday now. Have a great day and evening. E5 ICX, and I'm clear.